Good day, this is Leo Gilling, and welcome back to JDTAN's Jamaica Diaspora Day live online. It's June 16th, and we celebrate today we celebrate the 17th installment of this very important day for diasporans across the world. Today, earlier today, we had 3 sessions. The first one with its opening session. The second session was with the World Diaspora Organizations. And the third session was the Jamaica Diaspora Education Taskforce's session there. I'm so sorry. Right now, we have another of the last 7 sessions for the rest of the day. We have 12 hours. And let me turn you over to Miss Shernet Bailey, who's your host for this very important session. Shernet?
Thank you so much, Leo. I think we also have a little video to share, Kimon, from our sponsor.
Absolutely.
Our family and friends are a big part of who we are. They are our biggest supporters and confidants, and our source of bellyfuls of laughter.
And when it comes to keeping you connected, Western Union is here to make it safer and easier with their digital services. Now your family and friends overseas can send you money without leaving home by using the Western Union app or westernunion.com. Just visit gkmsonline.com to register and share your banking details with your sender to start receiving funds directly to your bank account, so you don't have to leave home to collect. Grace Kennedy Money Services, home of Bill Express, FX Trader, and Western Union, doing our part to help you stay safe and connected to the ones you love.
All right, over to you, Shernet.
Awesome, thank you so much. And thank you everybody, and welcome, good afternoon, and welcome to Diaspora Day and to the Jamaica Diaspora Task Action Network's Parenting and Other Abled Persons panel discussion under the theme of developing a culture of inclusion, bringing awareness to the challenges and successes of the deaf and other able served communities, and assisting in the empowering of these persons who are our fellow Jamaicans. I am Shernet Bailey, the chair for the Parenting and Other Abled Persons Task Force and the moderator for today's session. Our first panelist will be Susan Hamilton. Susan Hamilton is the Managing Director for the Abilities Foundation. Ms. Hamilton has been at the helm of the Abilities Foundation for 10 years, where she administers the vocational training for persons with disabilities. Ms. Hamilton has over 20 years of experience in education and general management. Her passion for special needs is a personal one, as she is a proud mother of 2 sons, older being diagnosed on the autism spectrum. She is a passionate advocate for women and girls with disabilities, and is tireless in her implementation of projects aimed at improving their lives and chances in life. Susan will be talking about the challenges faced by the disabled community and viable solutions. Over to you, Susan.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you to the panel, my esteemed panel that will be sharing today. And we're going to accomplish a lot by sharing in this forum. Disabilities worldwide are, everyone in the disability sector, we see the challenges faced by the persons who have to traverse our society, whether they are deaf, blind, they have intellectual disabilities, they have mobility challenges, or those with mental illnesses. And being at Abilities Foundation, we deal with everyone. So I'm able to have a bird's eye view of working with persons with disabilities from all different sectors. And so the challenges are many. And they are not just indicative of what's happening in the Caribbean or Jamaica, it's everywhere, okay? So what we have found is that inclusion makes a more developed nation. And the challenges faced, what we see, and I'm gonna be as quick as I can because we all have limited time. But when we look at all the challenges, I'm going to just look at gender. So, you know, in everything that we're doing, we're looking at, you know, transportation issues, education and training, accessibility. But among the big disabled group, you have deaf women, you have women who have mobility challenges, you have women with ID, and you have women with intellectual disabilities, and who did I leave out? Mental illnesses. And so because this disability will affect gender issues on a different level, what we have seen, and I can give you anecdotal evidence of our girls and women with disabilities. Remember now that some of them, they still have their reproductive health and they are mothers, they have families. So when you empower women with disabilities and deal with the challenges that they face, whether it be poverty, whether it be food security, when they are helped and when they have solutions, they're able to impact the family, which also impacts the community and then will impact the nation. So the challenges that I have seen range from accessibility issues, especially now with COVID, where education is now online. And we have gotten massive support from corporate Jamaica, government entities in trying to bridge this gap that we see. In terms of transportation issues, especially for those of our clients that live in rural Jamaica, COVID now has provided an opportunity for us to reach out to those persons in the West with online learning. So I'm also giving you the viable solutions at the same time. So in terms of emotional support, we find that although we're giving, we look at educational needs, we look at accessibility needs, we look at communication needs, we need a component to address the emotional well-being of persons with disabilities. Worldwide, Jamaica, Jamaican citizens abroad and here, because most persons with disabilities have baggage, have emotional baggage. When we speak with our girls and even our young men, most of them have been abused, whether through neglect, and just the myriad of abuse cases that we see. So we know that we have broken individuals that we are helping to transition to the world of work. And that's a component that we need to address, their emotional well-being, to ensure that they are not only productive, but they are emotionally well. Just to also bring to the fore some viable solutions that we need the diaspora to come together on so we can address some of our needs, especially when it comes to education and training. If the diaspora can look at ways that they can help women with disabilities to empower them more, whether it could be through devices, donations, supported employment. We have supported employment programs in Jamaica now that are done through Heart Trust, the Ministry of Labor, but we need private sector to come on board and support employment programs for persons with disabilities. We need to view the disability community as a viable consumer. And that's where I think persons need to look at carefully. Persons with disabilities go to the supermarket, they go to the movies, they buy things online. Make your marketing strategy directly to an inclusive society and include persons with disabilities. So whether you're selling Red Stripe beer or you're going with laptops, we need to see ads with disabled persons in them. Okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Susan. Certainly appreciate you sharing with us. we will have opportunities to share so much more in the future, because this is an ongoing effort. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
My pleasure. Tashai Widmer, a deaf educator and entrepreneur. Tashai was born into a deaf family in the parish of St. Elizabeth. She began learning at a young age and desires all deaf children to have the same access to education. Tashai holds a BS in psychology and counseling and a master's in education. Her career began with Jamaica Association for the Deaf as a social worker, and then Lister Mayor Gilby High School as a counselor. Tashai is currently the executive director of the Caribbean Christian Center for the Deaf. She is a visionary educator with a passion for transformation in the deaf community. Tashai will be sharing with us some of the success and challenges of deaf students. Tashai.
Hi, Shernette. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, panel. Good afternoon, audience, everybody viewing today. And it's really my honor to be here today to explain briefly about our successes through this virtual education and the attempts that we have here at CCCD. So actually we have 3 schools, one in Mandeville, one that's located in Mandeville, and we have another campus in Montego Bay, and we also have our Kingston campus. So the education runs from age 2 on up. Now today with the COVID impact in Jamaica, it means that we're trying to find a new norm for us and everybody. And we're trying to adapt to this situation, and especially for our students and for them to be able to continue learning. Like, how can we educate them through the technology? So far we've seen some successes. We've noticed that technology has very limited access. There's 70% of our students, of our student body. I'd say about 70% of them can take the classes online. They have accessible internet Wi-Fi to do that. But understand 40% of that 70%, they're able to do some schoolwork, which is better than nothing. But what I've been noticing as well as for the teachers and the students is they're having struggles learning how to learn the technology, how to use the technology itself. So that's been another challenge. So, some of the students don't have laptops either. So, or we'll have to use video through our phone services. Something else that I've seen is the parents and the families that are involved with school, they don't have access to that. They don't have the support that they need to help their own students at home. So these are the 3 major challenges that we're experiencing through this COVID time. I noticed too, seeing the struggles. So the 70% that I mentioned of the student body, that they have access to the online classes, but 30% of them, they're not turning in their work. So I was very flustered by that and had to ask them why. Well, it's very important to continue on your work. So then I would have to send up templates to send to them to give them examples of how they could do their work on their end. So it's been a challenge to learn. There's been so many challenges and so many people, especially here in Jamaica, there's been so many of us having this challenge to learn education through technology. But yes, there are many challenges, and actually language barriers is our biggest. 95% of our students that are home, they have their family members have no communication. They don't know Jamaican Sign Language. So they don't have a language model at home at all. So our students are really struggling. Like if they come across an English word, they can't go to a family member. They can't ask them, hey, mom, dad, what does this word mean? Because the families don't obtain Jamaican Sign Language. So one-on-one instruction isn't really that beneficial, and when we do it in a classroom setting, we have, of course, more tools, more accessibility, and we have more success. So nothing can beat that in being in a real live class, of course. But with what I've noticed with our teachers as well, the technology skills that we have to achieve, achieve and we have to learn. It's been a real experience, a real struggle in the ways like, well, there's been one benefit because the parents have been forced to kind of become involved with their children's learning where they didn't know what to do. So that is one benefit, side benefit. But today, like, for example, I noticed my signing skills because are kind of getting a little rusty because I'm not communicating with my deaf students on a daily basis. So therefore, that's a little bit of a negative sideline for me. When a student has to stay home, also like Ms. Hamilton was explaining, the emotional impact that happens at home, especially for a deaf child, they're isolated on a whole nother level because they have no family interaction because of the language barriers and non-communication within the family. So the wellness of the mental health of a deaf child at home is a real issue. So we're trying to communicate with our students as much as we can through video. We also realize that the whole Jamaican community, you know, we ask you, please, whatever the resource is, if you can, when you have something that you post online, whatever your private business or an app, please include an interpreter for this, because without it, we're not gathering this information. We don't have access to the same vital information that the rest of our countrymen have. So if you set up that inclusiveness with an interpreter, then we're equivalent. So language access, it's very easy to do in this country. We need it countrywide. That would be my #1 request.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tashai. Really appreciate that share. Next, we will have a song by the Sweet Sound Musical Choir, led by musical director Camila Candy Isaacs, who is blind. She's an accomplished young lady with a fabulous voice herself. And her group is here to share a beautiful song about being a champion with us. Thank you so much. Camila, when you're ready.
We are the champions, my friend. We keep on fighting to the end. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, but we are champion, 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 champion. Everybody knows that she is a champion, 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 champion. Everybody knows that it's our time, it's our place, it's our destiny. No one can take away what was meant to be. We rise to what fear can be unfeared. No man never seen way back and here. The best is yet to come. If I believe we know, now we know. We know, we know. Cause I know we are, we are to it. To the gate, to the dark night, to the storm. I remain and I strive, I will carry on. Yeah, 7 more mountains I tried. Yes, I opened my eyes, and now I see the sun. When you know, winning right now, yeah. When you know, winning right now, get a trophy to our living right now. Cause I'm winning right now, yeah. When you know, I'm chilling right now, yeah. When you know, winning right now. I just give it right now. Cause I'm winning right now. I don't want to keep up the bird from the air. Right,
was tremendous. Oh, thank you so much, Sweet Sound, and thank you, Candy. That was awesome. I love the message. It's so appropriate, you know, Diaspora Day, and we are winners. Jamaicans are winners, and this is exactly why we're here. Wow, I'm really excited that you did that, and thank you so much for sharing. Loved it. Next up, we'll have Kazim Babatunde. Kazim is an accomplished IT and project manager at the third largest institute of National Institutes of Health in the United States. He's also our Nigerian brother who loves Jamaica, loves the Jamaican people, and who actively supports the Jamaica Deaf Youth Camp Deaf Fest every year. Welcome and thank you so much, Kazim. Kazim will be talking to us about mentoring deaf youths and the opportunities available to the deaf.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. My pleasure to be here, everyone. I'm really, really excited to be here and share a bit about my experiences being in Jamaica and about being a mentor. The students that I had the opportunity to mentor with, they had not had much exposure through their lives. They really weren't even sure about a path that they had set for themselves. Many of them had already chosen a wrong path. Some of them had experienced times in trouble, whether it was in jail. So my hope is to be able to show them how they can find that right path fitting for them and to give them a brighter future. And showing kids how I can support them, giving them the tools necessary to become, you know, yes, kids are going to have mistakes, but they're going to learn from those mistakes. So being a mentor is something that I cherish. And then I try to teach them that if they have a passion, they stick with it and just keep doing it over and over, it will become a habit eventually. So when my first time that I went to Jamaica, you know, I loved Jamaica. It was a wonderful experience and I plan to return again soon. I can't wait to see the kids. And the language was, JSL was a little bit different than ASL, but not that much that we could communicate. And the connection that I have with the kids was about love. So the time that I had with them was about looking at past mistakes and how not to dwell on those. I tried to give them inspiration on how that a child can learn from their experiences, be positive, become something. It doesn't matter what it is, and you're going to go through these struggles, but you can also grow from your struggles. Every child has struggles, and the issue is not repeating the same problems, breaking those habits. That's where a role model comes into play, is trying to help that youth, that individual, to break these negative role models that they have, that we need to mentor. And the deaf youth in Jamaica desperately need mentors. And I had the opportunity to do that. And when they have a mentor, they can grow. A youth will grow through their personality, for their own achievements. They're going to fall. They're going to fail. They're going to fail. Of course they are. But I would try to stress with them, and still to stress with them, do not give up when you fall. Lift yourself back up. Keep on. Keep on. Don't give up on yourself. That's my overall message. And these deaf youth in Jamaica need mentors. Thank you. Shernette, we can't hear you.
Oh, my sincerest apologies. I'm sorry, Kazim. I just got so caught up in the speech that I forgot to unmute. I'm sorry. I also neglected to mention that Kazim is a dynamic, well, sought after DJ, as a deaf DJ who's really wicked when it comes to the Jamaican music and, getting you moving. So thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for caring about our Jamaican youth. Really appreciate it. Up next, we're going to have a young lady, Trishana Bertram. Trishana Bertram is a data operator. She is 22 years old and was born with cerebral palsy. Oh, today's not my day. She's the oldest of 3 beautiful girls raised by a single mother. Trishana is a part of the We Are Different project at Abilities Foundation, where she explores the finishing aspect of furniture making. And she's also a project ambassador. Trishana likes to express herself through poetry, and she would love to share one of her poems with us. And then Trishana will be telling us about herself and her story. Susan, if you don't mind, we're not able to see Trishana below her nose. So if you could adjust her seat for us, thank you so much. Take it away, Trishana.
Good day, everyone. Good day, everyone.
Hi, Trishana.
All right, so I'm going to share one of my poems that I wrote personally. So here it goes. I ask of you not to count my mistakes, but to count the times I have made you happy. I can't replace your past, but I can give you a brand new page to write about your future that starts with you and me. So close your eyes and count to 3. Beside your heart, that's where I will be. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. Can you share a little bit about your story and what you've been doing at the Abilities Foundation, please?
Well, I am a sorry, I'm kind of nervous.
Don't worry, take your time.
Student, so I'm also the IT. Here at Abilities has given me the opportunity to not only learn a skill, but at least improve the person I am, and also giving me the opportunity outside of my skill area to learn something new and to also represent the school.
Lovely. Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about the furniture making and, what excited you about it?
Well, furniture making is exciting because it's one out of my comfort zone, because normally it's ideal for me, right? So I got introduced to furniture making, where we learned to finish and also mix the chemicals, and it was fun. Because after you finish it, it does come out amazing. So yeah, I'm in love with it.
And I think I read somewhere, somebody shared with me that you were taking your CXCs. Is that true?
I am looking forward to doing that because I haven't got the opportunity to do it because I attend a special school before I came to Abilities. So I would like to try it and see how many I can pass.
Well, I'm sure you'll do very well. And I'm sure that, Miss Suzanne is going to be there, and your teachers are right there with you all the way. And the entire Jamaican diaspora is here with you, and we know you can do it. So go for it, girl, and do it.
Thank you.
Now, is there anything else that you would like to share with your fellow Jamaicans throughout the world?
Well, my word to anybody across the world that has a disability: once you have a dream, go for it. Don't make your disability stop you, because your disability is there to push you more to get exactly what you deserve.
Wow, those were powerful words, Trishana. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate it. Well done. Fantastic.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Up next, we will have Mr. Andre Witta. Andre is deaf and was born in the parish of St. Elizabeth to deaf parents. He is a strong leader and advocate, and he loves to teach deaf youths to develop their potential of advocacy and leadership. He has worked with the Deaf Sports Jamaica since 2012. He is also the co-founder of the Jamaica Deaf Youth Advocacy. He's an employee at the Jamaica Association for the Deaf as a tutor teaching in Jamaican Sign Language. He also has his own sign language class, which is called Ready to Sign. Andre's saying, if you will, is every day we grow, all is because every day we learn. Andre will be talking to us about, you know, the deaf youth in Jamaica. Stephanie, you are muted. Go ahead, Andre.
Good afternoon, audience. It's a real honor to be a part of this opportunity to share with the Jamaican diaspora. I do recognize there are many challenges that we've experienced in Jamaican deaf community. But if I was to pick one, we have various challenges with communication access.
Stephanie, is he frozen on your end?
Frozen.
I can see him. Go ahead, Andre. Communication access being the number one, if I had to pick one issue. So imagine if, when it comes to communication, and I'm sorry, we are having technical issues on Andre's video.
Frozen.
Yes, I can see that. And unfortunately, that's just how it is with technology. Oh, he's back.
With Jamaica, we see a lot of communication access barriers for our deaf community, but those can be resolved through interaction. So if the hearing parents were able to acquire language, they could have that communication with their child. Stephanie, you want to take over?
Still frozen.
Okay. Some of the children are sent to school, and that is where they primarily acquire their language, was amongst each other, not from the family. But at the same time, what I've noticed, we're having a slight improvement with some access. Bear with us. The video is very choppy. But inclusion would be the most important part of our community. So not just in TV, but in through all of society, we need full inclusion with our deaf community, with the full Jamaican society. Go ahead. Good. Okay. So with such situations, also we've noticed that maybe the community itself, that they don't realize that what they're doing, the hearing community, when they take advantage of our language or they don't respect our language, that it's the privilege. And when they do not share language with their child, it's actually called language deprivation. So, you know, it's very important for these children at a young age to learn their natural language. And when they don't, it can cause extreme emotional angst within inside. And then they have to try to acquire language later on. Am I still frozen? On, off, on, off, on, off. Okay. So when this happens, if a child acquires language too late, then they're very delayed in their learning. So when a deaf child is able to be immersed within the deaf community at an early age, then they do have full language acquisition versus being around a hearing family that refuses them to learn their language. So one of the situations here living in Jamaica, like imagine if you are have to go to the doctor, you have to go to the hospital, and everyone from the deaf community, if we get sick, we need to go to these medical facilities. We do not have language access, and that is a real challenge because we cannot have a conversation with medical team or professionals because the interpreting services are few and far between. So language access is the #1 issue. So far for now, there's some improvement I'm being seen, but there are so many people still that just don't have an understanding, and this really goes parish by parish. So inclusion, full inclusion, and full language access is what we need. So one thing that we can do better, that we hope to better here forward, it's time for all the schools to learn JSL, all schools to implement the classes of Jamaican Sign Language to be accessible for all hearing students to learn the language in their schools. If you have a deaf child and they have basic JSL, then you can have a hearing student that would also be able to communicate with them. So the more JSL that's throughout our community, the more that people will be able to understand the deaf community, and this will bridge our cultures. We know one day in the future, everything's going to come together. We're working together and communication will be there for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andre, much appreciated. As usual, very passionate. And I love the points that you make. And yes, inclusion for all. That's why we're here. Thank you so much. Up next, we will have Dr. Hexwell Douglas. Dr. Douglas, who's coming on video in just a couple of seconds, was diagnosed at an early age as having a visual impairment. In 1990, he attended the University of the West Indies, where he did a bachelor's degree in primary education and was awarded a first-class honors degree. Since then, he has achieved a master's in human resource development. In 2008, he completed a doctorate of philosophy in family literacy education with high commendations. He became blind at a later age in life. You and I just about the same age. So yeah, you're not that old. So sorry about that. As an older adult such as myself. And he's going to talk to us about being on both sides of the coin. Take it away, please, Hexwell.
Thanks, Madam Moderator, fellow panelists, interpreters, viewers, and listeners, all. I am, as the moderator says, Hexwell Douglas, and I am totally blind. As you heard, I was diagnosed at a very early age with about 4 different eye diseases, the worst of them being one called retinitis pigmentosa, which eventually led to blindness. With these conditions, I struggled through primary and high school and had the dubious distinction of suffering or experiencing a whole lot of unprecedented failures. These failures, of course, crushed my self-esteem in those days, but because of my mother, with her resilience, I pressed on. It highlighted, however, the very important point for the need for support. Support for teachers, support for students with disabilities, and technical and technological support. Very, very important in order to survive. Things changed a bit for me when I worked at the Salvation Army School for the Blind as a pre-trained teacher. And while there, I learned the skills of Braille reading, writing, typing, and mobility. This created a transformation in my life. And it highlights the point that training with appropriate programs and services end up being critical to the success of persons with disabilities. With those new tools, I resat a number of examinations and matriculated and attended the Sam Sharp Teachers College, where our good friend Leo also attended. There, it was about goodwill on the part of the principal, the students, and the lecturers, And with that goodwill, I did extremely well serving as president for the Student Council and so on. From there, though, I went and worked in a regular primary school for about 20 years. And during that period, I did the various degrees at the University of the West Indies. I found, though, that at the University of the West Indies, I got some more support, which came about as a result of policy decisions on the part of the university. It wasn't the best, but it was helpful. Since then, they have established Office of Special Student Services to assist students in various ways. After that, I went back into the world of work, and I worked as a teacher, of course, then as an education officer in the special education unit. And perhaps the best part of it was promoted to the post of Assistant Chief Education Officer for Special Education island-wide. Of course, you know, that would now put me into the policy realm, and I was now seeing things from a totally different perspective. I also got some good support from the Ministry of Education, but what I found out is there are government benefits that a lot of persons are not aware of, and as a consequence, they're not able to access them. For example, I benefited from a chauffeur support, and the ministry gave me the kind of technology and the kind of training that I needed. So that was good. Here today, I am here looking at things from two different perspectives, from that of a policymaker and that of a person with disabilities. And what have I discovered? I have discovered that there are numerous barriers that persons with disabilities encounter along the way. One of the worst, perhaps, is the very slow response from the political directorate across different political administrations. I found that the politicians are interested in getting their names on certain documents. For example, if you're developing a policy in one administration and it goes across to the next administration, and if you're not careful, to another administration. At Ministry of Education, though, I will say that they have been making some good strides. They did try to reform special education, which was good, and put a number of things in place, a number of support for students, caregivers, teachers, aides, grants for students attending private schools, and so on. This, of course, highlights the need, though, for greater advocacy on the part of various stakeholders, the NGOs, parents, and so on. Because the more pressure we put on government, the better things will be. It took pressure for government when they declared years ago free education, for government to start sponsoring a number of our NGOs and private schools. So inadequate advocacy is a big problem, and we need to step up on that. But we also find that training and mobilization is going to be very, very important. We have to train our parents to become advocates. We have to mobilize all the groups so that they can work together as one, because the fragmentation does not help when we try to access resources and services. The biggest problem in the system for me is the discriminatory practices that we find some school administrators and some schools engaging in. A lot of our students have to do a little entrance exam at grade 1. And if they are not found to be at a certain academic level, some schools want to reject them. And then there are students with all other forms of disabilities who are not properly diagnosed, properly assessed, and they too are kept out of the system. We heard about inclusion. That's the way forward, but that costs a lot of money. However, legislation is going to be the key as we try to hold people accountable for making the necessary provisions to ensure the human rights and the dignity of all our students. And when I say all, I mean those of us with disabilities at every level. And so we have made some progress, but we still have a far way to go. And we hope that the diaspora and other groups will be able to add some pressure so that these things can take place.
Wow. You know, Dr. Douglas, I'm tempted to knock on my desk and say, here, here, here. I felt like I was in Parliament and you just put it out and we are ready to just say, yeah, let's do it. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. So, ladies and gentlemen of the diaspora and our esteemed panelists, it has come to the end of our session. We have so much work to do and we are ready and geared up to do it with your help. And, you know, we have some things that are coming down the pipe that we'll be happy to share with, and please stay tuned so you can see some of the things that we have, you know, lined up. I'd like to thank all the panelists who took time to share with all of us today and give us an opportunity to better understand some of the challenges that the deaf and differently other abled population in our beloved Jamaica face daily. As we have always been and will continue to be, out of many one people, we will communicate, we will continue to facilitate further discussions and calls to action. Our next opportunity to share actually will be on Wednesday, July 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern, where we'll delve a little bit deeper into some of the topics that we just discussed, primarily looking at teenage parents in Jamaica, how it affects the other abled population, the deaf population, and generally the Jamaican population. More of this will be on JDTAN.org, and we'll of course continue to share on Jamaicans.com and Facebook Live, etc. Once again, thank you so much to everybody. Really appreciate you spending time with us, and thank you panelists, and let's go forth and have a fantastic and uplifting Diaspora Day. Thank you. Bye-bye.